Possibly.
Do you remember a few years ago we had an episode about how the card Silumgar's Scorn was a messed up Magic card?
Yeah, in fact.
Yeah, like you had to have a highly restrictive deck. Like you literally had to have a dragon in play or a dragon in your hand to go you counter target spell.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just going alpha. Counterspell is back, baby.
I wouldn't even say it's back so much as it's finally here.
Yeah.
Like, I've been waiting since the advent of this format. I've been waiting for Counterspell in Modern. And Modern Horizons 2 has started off with a incredibly intense spoiler by the name of Counterspell.
I mean, I think they gave like half the Magic community an aneurysm when they announced this card because they showed both the regular and like the borderless versions of the card, and underneath the regular one it just said the word standard. So people were like, what? But yes, Counterspell, Modern Horizons 2. They weren't pulling any punches on this. Like there's some insane cards have been spoiled for Modern Horizons 2. The thing that's crazy to me is not only is that the case, we're like maybe 2 weeks into Strixhaven Standard, and there's spoilers from 2 new sets already. Not just Modern Horizons 2, but another set that's also exciting. So, Counter Target Spell, won the first Pro Tour, does well in Legacy. I don't know, man. Do you think it's going to see play in Modern, or lots of play in Modern?
Lots of play in Modern. I agree. I think Counterspell is a really big game. That is a game changer for the format.
And we have Verdant Catacombs, Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest, Marsh Flats, and my favorite, Arid Mesa, were all spoiled as well for Modern Horizons 2.
They are much less impactful, I think. That's more just, keeping the circulation up.
Yeah. I mean, they're not impactful at all from a metagame standpoint. They've been there since the beginning. I will buy some, though.
Yeah, I just mean impactful in terms of, they've been reprinted again, so now the supply is a little bit bigger.
Here's a card that's really interesting to talk about from my perspective. It's got a lot of things going on. It got a lot of types. And it is very evocative in terms of its name. Urza's Saga. Talk to me about Urza's Saga, the card.
Oh, see, I was going to say, sadly, Urza's Saga, the Rochester draft format, was one of the greatest draft formats of all time.
Oh, my God. I remember playing in the PTQ, day 2 of that Pro Tour in Los Angeles, losing my win-in, being super sad, but being tackled from behind by someone who said, I did it. Maybe he said, we did it. And he had gone, I want to say, 6-0 on day 2 to lock top 8.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, that person acquired an undefeated day 2 for top 8, and then he went on to draft Phyrexian Processor, and guy is embracing the top 8.
Yeah, and lose. So Urza's Saga is a...
He did make the Hall of Fame, though.
Dude, Urza's Saga is an enchantment land. And, dude, it's obviously it's a saga, but its land type is Urza's. So it even says Urza's Saga in the type line.
Do you play this in Tron decks? Because it's an Urza's land?
Dude, how sick is that? So you can, as this saga enters, and after your draw step, add a lore counter, and then sacrifice after Chapter 3, like all sagas. But here we go. Chapter 1, Urza's Saga gains tap for a colorless.
So you play this and it can be a land, right? It's stage 1.
Stage 1, it's a colorless land. It needs to actually trigger, though, because this is an ability that could be stifled, for instance.
Nice.
Chapter 2, Urza's Saga gains 2 and tap create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So basically Karn's constructs that are the XXs, it gets to just start making them. But it doesn't last that long because Chapter 3, the very next turn, search your library for an artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1 and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle.
Well,
which, of course, then you lose her as a saga.
Well, so when you're in Chapter 2, right, presumably you played this in such a way that you would have available mana to use the Chapter 2 ability. Could you go to the next turn cycle and then prior to Chapter 3, etc. happening, use Chapter 2 again?
Yeah, you can use Chapter 2 on your upkeep. Because remember, Chapter 3 doesn't happen until the end of your draw step.
So that seems like it could have some play. You can make 2 0/0 colorless constructs this way.
Yeah, better to make them a little bit bigger. But yeah, as long as you have an artifact in play, because what you want to do is on turn 1, play Urza's Saga and then play an artifact. Although you don't really want to play this on turn 1. Really what you want to do, unless you have Moxes or something, right? What you really want to do is play this on turn 2, so that on turn 3, you can play another land and actually activate it, both on this turn and the next turn. And then on turn 4, you have that second construct, and then you go get something that costs 0 or 1 from your deck. That said, you may not want to make a construct on Chapter 3, because you may actually just be in for going and getting like Black Lotus or something. Or Soul Ring.
Well, couldn't you make the construct on your upkeep and then you still get the trigger for Chapter 3?
Yeah, you just won't have as much mana.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you go get Black Lotus and you just do something freaking humongous.
Okay, I see that.
But who knows? There's a lot of things you could do. One of the things you can do, though, is you go get, say on turn 1, you play Urza's Power Plant or Mine or whatever, and then you go play whether it's a map or any chromatic sphere, something like that, right? Turn 2, you play the Saga. Or no, you don't even. Just play your other Urza land, really. But you can actually use Urza's Saga to pull the whole Tron together,
Because you can search for a map on Chapter 3.
Exactly. Right. And you've got artifacts anyway. And having this as an extra utility land is pretty sweet. And as a ramp card, it's pretty enticing.
How many Darksteel Citadels do you think this card is going to go gather up?
Not that many. I don't know. What?
I mean, I think people just want to replace their land drop, right? Like you
can't use it to go get Darksteel Citadel, can you? I thought it doesn't have a mana value.
You get an artifact card with mana cost 0 or okay. I thought that had a cost of 0. Maybe I'm wrong.
Its cost counts as 0, but it doesn't have a cost, right?
Well,
I don't know, man.
I guess
rules are weird.
I guess someone will find out at some point before this is played in a Modern tournament. But it can certainly get some other sort of cheapy mana-producing artifacts, if not a Darksteel Citadel.
Yeah, but I think you can also just get some high-impact stuff. Remember, you get to just cheat it onto the battlefield. So, yeah, if it can go get Darksteel Citadel, that could be... But you haven't really gotten anywhere, right?
No, you just make up for you use the land drop to play it, you use that action, and then you just don't lose that when Chapter 3 comes around, which is what the natural course of this card is.
That's true. If that actually works, that's kind of a good play for like an affinity deck or something.
Yeah, I mean, or just like if you...
It's kind of sweet to get Skull Clamp instead, though, man.
If you were just playing Urza's Saga in a non-unfair deck, right? So if you're playing in, obviously Tron is a degenerate mana deck, and you could play it in Affinity potentially, which is also a at least at times, an unfair deck. But I think this card is plausible in a fair deck, right? It taps for mana. It just generates an advantage. Like Chapter 2 being used twice just makes 2 permanents. That's a thing that fair decks, I'm like, oh, look, another way to gain slightly a little bit of advantage. I'm in, right? That's just what they do. They're like, oh, I don't want to give up my land drop for that. Don't worry, says there's a Saga. I can just get you replacement land. Maybe, if I'm right. Maybe not, if you're right.
Well, it's not that I'm right. I'm just saying that I don't know. You probably can. I don't know, though.
What do you think? Is this an exciting card?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I want to go get, like, Black Lotus and Skull Clamp, though, man.
So you want to play this, like, in Vintage?
Yeah. Like in a mono brown Vintage deck. Like Eldrazi in Vintage. But it's also fine to just play in some sort of affinity deck or Tron, of course. Like, why would this not be good in Tron?
I think it'd be great in Tron. It's an Urza's land. Like,
Yeah.
it's like right on the nose, man. They painted his nose in the picture so that you would know that you should do that. It's right on it.
Do you think you're ever going to go get Brainstone?
I thought about it. It's appropriately costed for sure.
Like,
So-
is Brainstone an option, at least as a one-of, in modern Tron?
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to play too many Brainstones in any deck.
Well, so the next thing, I don't know. You got to be careful. I think you might be underestimating Brainstone. It's 1 colorless for an artifact that has 2 tap and sacrifice it to draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So basically, you get the Brainstorm, right?
For 3 mana.
You're like, oh, this sucks. I want to pay. I don't want to pay 3 mana to Brainstorm. Maybe not. So let's walk through this for a second. When you're playing like a Tron deck, first of all, you don't normally get access to nice things like Brainstorm, right?
I agree.
But you do have a boatload of shuffling.
And just spare mana for days.
When I play Tron, I find myself using all my mana every turn. A lot. Until the end. Then you have all the mana in the world, of course. But, like, the thing about Brainstone is that it is an incredible amount of digging to either your Tron or whatever bomb you need. And you can shuffle stuff away, and you end up with a lot of garbage in Tron decks sometimes. And it is so awesome to be able to turn it into something productive. It's also great to be able to protect your hand against surgical extraction or something, or a thought seize.
I buy that.
But
I think this card
surgical less so, but
is plausible to play. It just doesn't seem very exciting to me because the total casting cost is so high. I mean, obviously Brainstorm is an amazing effect.
Is it worth paying 1+2 to go get a land out of your deck?
I mean, people do that a lot.
Right, so like Sylvan Scrying is good, right? Mm-hmm. And you're willing to pay 3 for Sylvan Scrying, but is Brainstorm not worth paying 3 for?
And it's also not paying 3; it's paying 1+2, right? So it's 3 total. But the difference is obviously if you're stuck on 2, you can do a Brainstorm where you couldn't do something that actually costs 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always thought this card would be playable. I just didn't think you'd play too many. That's all.
Out of curiosity, how much would you play Brainstorm in Modern if it cost 1 and a blue and was legal?
It's just the same card as Brainstorm, but 1 and a blue.
Instant 1 and a blue
in Modern.
Brainstorm. In Modern,
huh? In some decks, I think I would. Yeah, right. I don't think it would be like ubiquitous like it is in Legacy.
No, but in some decks, it's kind of like, I don't think Sylvan Scrying is ubiquitous. But in some decks, I would play Sylvan Scrying.
No, I mean, but I think there's a big difference between like certain Legacy decks that need Brainstorm to even get their second land drop, or that kind of function by chaining a bunch of cheap cards together, and then there are different decks that play Brainstorm that just play.
What does that have to do with whether or not you would play Brainstorm at 2 in Modern?
Because I'm just saying, like, there's versus other decks that just like draw and play land every turn. They have a spare mana later, and then they can exploit.
I guess I don't understand what that has to do with, like, if it costs enough that you would play it. Would you play it?
Yeah, I would play it in the latter decks, maybe not in the prior decks. That's what I'm saying. Like
yeah, but like Sylvan Scrying's the same way, right?
No disagreement. I think I'm violently agreeing with you. You play it in some decks.
I think this is a little slow.
I think it's going to see play.
I think so too. What do you think about Diamond Lion, man?
I don't know. I kind of love it. Like, I don't know. It's like 2 mana for a 2/2. Cool. Tell me more. And it has tap, discard your hand, sacrifice Diamond Lion, add 3 mana of any one color. And then it says activate only as an instant. That's like confusing to me.
No, that's real though.
Yeah?
Yeah, it has to, because there's a lot of problems with letting people discard cards at mana speed.
Oh.
It's because of the discard part.
Okay. So, I don't know, like, Diamond Lion is obviously... It's actually probably faster than Lotus Bloom in some situations, right? So, Lotus Bloom, if you play it, like, on
turn 2.
Like, on turn 0, right? You have to wait for it for a certain period of time. But if you play it, if you suspend it on, like, turn 2, it's actually pretty slow, right? So, Diamond Lion, you just play on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you have access potentially to 6. Right, I think that's actually, I think, pretty explosive as long as it lives, and I think it'll get in there sometimes. Can you imagine attacking for 2 with this?
Totally. I imagine this guy's going to attack for 2 a fair bit.
Yeah, I think this card will see some play, and I mean maybe we'll see it make Titans.
I was going to say, where are you imagining it seeing play though?
I think it make Titans. I think that it could be played in some.
Is it going to make Titans? What kind of Titans is it going to make?
Green ones.
How? You have to discard your hand.
Oh, man, that stinks. Maybe it doesn't make Titans. What does it make? It's just only in degenerate combo decks then?
I mean, it activates Goblin Charbelcher, I guess. If that's your thing. It's probably also very likely to just be a tool for a problem that doesn't exist yet.
I can imagine that. I mean, you might just be in the market for like a large amount of mana after you already have things on the battlefield. So, I mean, there's a card from the Dungeons & Dragons set that just gives rise to that thought for me. So, I don't know. This seems like a card that is gonna do things and probably do more than one thing. Maybe not make Titans.
I bet I'm a little bearish on this one, but at least it has good types.
I think last one for Modern Horizons 2. I think this card's gonna be pretty good. Sanctum Prelate, 1 white for a 2/2 human cleric. It is a little expensive for a hate bear, but it is very hateful.
This is extremely hateful.
Yeah. As Sanctum Prelate enters the battlefield, choose a number. Non-creature spells with mana value equal to the chosen number can't be cast. Like, this isn't even counter those spells. You know, like some people are...
That's better.
Yeah, counter spells of that casting cost. This, you can't even do that. You can't even get the trigger for storms.
Or Vexing Shusher it through.
Yeah, so... This one, I think, is going to be very hateful.
Well, the other thing about this one that's so sick is you can play it and you can just say 3. Like, if that's the good number for your opponent. You know, like, obviously, like, Chalice of the Void very often was kind of, you know, like, 1 is the most preferred number, 0 comes up a fair bit, and 2 is like a threat that can get turned on at some point, right? The Prelate, it just gets 3 as a very real part of its kit. And in fact, it gets 4 as well. Obviously, you can pick any number you want. You can play it, say, 5, and they can't even Force of Will stuff anymore. But, like, having the ability, the flexibility so that against some people you can play it and name 1 and shut off all their cantrips. While at the same time, you can have this as a tool against other people where you name 2 or 3 and actually just completely mess up their combo. This card looks fantastic to me in powered formats.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it only hits non-creatures means that you can just play whatever number you want with it. Like, if you're playing a deck that's... Say your deck's just got, like, Aether Vials and creatures or whatever, like so many human decks do, it doesn't affect you no matter what number you say.
Oh, for sure.
For the most part.
I mean, I think just saying 2 and, like, maybe against, like, a blue-red Storm deck, like... They're going to be in trouble in game 1. If you get 2 of these out and you're just like 2 and 4 or something, they might not be able to win or remove it from the battlefield. That's the other thing. Sometimes people have lightning bolts, but like I think this is going to be very. If it's not very, very like just shutting the game off, I think it could potentially buy you so much time. Like they only have like 1 copy of a 1 casting cost. Battlefield interaction card anywhere in their 60, right? And it takes them several turns to get there. The fact that this is a creature also, theoretically being played with other creatures, you just put them away before you get anywhere close to winning.
Now, you do got to remember that this isn't really adding anything to Legacy. Obviously, Sanctum Prelate's been around since Conspiracy Take the Crown, but Modern hasn't had access to this, and having this as a hate bear for the Modern format is like such a different rules of engagement for Modern. Like we've seen Counterspell adding different rules for Blue. Sanctum Prelate is taking Legacy's, this Legacy tool and reprinting it in this new context.
Like, imagine you were playing humans against... this is like a fair deck situation. You're playing humans against one of the red decks, right? The Nouveau red decks that are out that are, like, very heavy on cards like Lightning Bolt, Lava Dart. Sometimes they play Seal of Fire, right? Like, you could play this and just say 1, right? They can still play their guys, but they can't play anything that make their guys worth playing. Right, like they can't even play like a mutagenic growth, right? Like so they're just like they're super stuck. And the advantage that those red decks often have against humans is they can't win a match where they're like, "All right, it's going to be my entire 60 against your entire 60," but they don't have to. They only need to like lightning bolt 1 or 2 things. Their guys get big enough and then they win in a couple of attacks. Like if they can no longer remove the creatures on the human side. The quality of the human creatures is just fundamentally better than the 0, 1, and 1, 2 creatures that are never getting prowess triggers on the other side of the battlefield. Like, they cannot... literally, they don't have the option of casting a lightning bolt that will get countered in order to give their guy +1/+1. Like, that is the degree to which this card could potentially shut them down. I think this is actually going to be pretty good in those kind of scenarios, and that's not intuitive.
I think it's going to be good in a lot of spots. This is just what the doctor ordered for White and Modern. But Modern Horizons 2 may be coming up quick, and it's kind of amusing that they're making both the kind of like the new frames and old frames. Like, that's kind of interesting, right? Like, being able to get old frame fetch lands and old frame... you can get, Brainstone and Urza Saga, even though they're new, you can get them in either the new frame or the old frame.
Oh, man. They're gonna get me for a lot of frames, I think. I bought 16 old frame Monastery Swift Spears.
Sick.
Yeah.
But Modern Horizons 2, not the only spoilers. We're just getting it all over. And we've also got the new D&D expansion. Talk to me about that.
First of all, I saw LSV tweeting about this, and I was just like, is this canonical? Like, this is a set that I'm going to play with? Like, sometimes they make these things and they're just for funsies, right? Like, this is not a funsies set. This is going to be the standard set in a couple of months.
Yeah, this is real.
So some of these cards, actually every card that they've spoiled so far, I think is going to be tournament playable, except maybe one, and that one is still going to be a super popular card.
You're talking about you're talking about from D&D though.
Oh, from D&D, yeah. Dungeons and Dragons. Every single one, I think, is probably pretty good. Like, actually might be excellent in a lot of cases. So, let's start with Tiamat. Tiamat is 2+ Werberg, so it's 7. For a 7/7 legendary creature dragon god. If you watched the old D&D cartoon when you were a kid, I did. Tiamat was one of the bad guys. It's like a 5-headed dragon. It has like a black dragon head that spits acid, a red dragon head that spits fire, etc. So 5 different dragon heads. This one has the following abilities: flying, and when Tiamat enters the battlefield, if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have different names, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle. So 7 mana, 7/7 flying, draw 5 cards.
And they're all dragons.
All dragons.
Dude, the toolbox, man. When you have Tiamat as part of, like, when you go get Niv Mizzet with Tiamat, hell, you could go get Niv Mizzet, a different Niv Mizzet, a different Niv Mizzet, and a different Niv Mizzet.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. I think that I might be the person who played the fanciest dragon deck ever. I'm not too excited about Tiamat, personally. It's because if you cast it, like, it's expensive. This is like a card that you have to kind of, I mean, I don't know. I guess there are unfair ways to, quote, cast something. But, I think the default is that you have to cast it fair and that you have to kind of get there. And then even once you've gotten there, you drew 5, but they're, like, not fast to get an advantage from them. They're just in your hand.
The thing is that this set is actually standard legal.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't think there's, like, a possibility of a 7/7 flyer that it's even a god.
I think,
like,
that
you can go get one copy of Tiamat with your World Tree.
Does that cast it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I want to cast it so that I get the five dragons.
Well, yeah, if you draw it, and you want to play with some other dragons, but you don't think a 7/7 flyer that you draw 5 cards has, like, chances in standard? Cultivate's even legal, man.
All right. I guess it seems like a lot of clunk to me. I mean, I could be wrong.
It's a lot of clunk. There's no question.
How much is your boy Velo? Speaking of dragons, Velomachus Lorehold. Easier to cast than this.
True.
Faster, higher impact.
Different. Velomachus can just be killed. Tiamat, your 5 dragons, the better of it, even if they kill it. Look, I'm not saying this is, like, just the defining card, but, dude, you can go get all 5 Elder Dragons. Go get your Velomachus with Tiamat.
That was obviously my first thought, because if I can cast Tiamat, I can cast most of those Elder Dragons, right? Like, maybe all of them easily. So, I think Tiamat is a potential. I'm just saying, of the spells that have been revealed in Dungeons & Dragons so far, I think the other 4 are all going to see a lot of play. I think Tiamat is maybe going to see play. That's my current assessment.
Let's see. You can get Terror of the Peaks, Goldspan Dragon, Galazeth Prismari.
I mean, you're kind of cheating by only getting good dragons. Why don't you get some clunkers in there?
Why do you need clunkers?
Of course you don't need clunkers.
No, dude. Like, first of all, you might not even need 5 dragons to go get.
It's one of those things, like, when you cast Niv Mizzet, like, you don't need to actually get the maximum number of extra cards. Like, 2 or 3 of those is probably enough to win the game.
But also, so dude, you could be, like, for instance, what about, like, 1 Sprite Dragon in your deck, man?
Yeah, I think
like,
so. I think
that's fine. A 1/1 Flying Haste, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon?
Yeah.
Why not? You can easily put 1 Sprite Dragon in your deck.
You could play multiple Sprite Dragons. You could play all the Sprite Dragons and just have them before you play the Tiamat so that your curve doesn't start at 7. I'm in for that.
I don't know. But, so I it's probably a guilty pleasure, but Dude, I want to live in the world where Tiamat's sweet. Talk to me about Vorpal Sword, though, which is
Love
the
it.
black artifact equipment, the Rancor variant. So it's one of those equipment that when you play it, it doesn't do anything. But what it does do is equip for BB and give the creature +2/+0 in death touch. So you're kind of getting a Rancor that you're down 1 mana the first time because you have to pay. I guess it's 2 at a time. So really, it's a 1/+2 Rancor, but with death touch instead of trample. The other part of it, though, and it's artifact. The other part of it, and it doesn't fizzle. That's a big thing, I think, is that it doesn't fizzle. Like normally with Rancor, if you kill the creature in response to Rancor, the Rancor's gone. Vorpal Sword, if you kill it in response to equipping, But it also has this other ability, this 5 BBB. Until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game.
I think this card is excellent. So my direct comparison is not Rancor, although when I first wrote the preview to the card Bone Splitter, that was the only equipment anyone had ever seen, including me, writing the preview for it, and I compared that card to Rancor. But this card is like 1 equip more expensive than Bone Splitter, but you get Death Touch. Right, so I actually think this is just like straight up the 1+2/+2/0 and Death Touch has legs. I think like Death Touch is like that's not bad. It's you put it on the right creature, it's either getting in or it's good. Blocking with a small creature that has 2 additional power and Death Touch lets you punch up. I think that there's a lot of application to this. But I think that 8 mana ability at the bottom of the card, I think that's going to win some games. I think, it used to be these matchups where, you'd have, a green-white deck, a really inoffensive-looking green-white deck, playing against a blue-white deck in Standard, and, the blue-white deck was just so far ahead on every metric, and the green-white deck, would just be so far behind, and then, on turn 15, would just play a Fleecemane Lion. The blue-white deck would lose. I think the Vorpal Sword is a lot like that. In some long game, you're just going to have some guy that you have, and you're just going to put away a control deck with it.
So, I think Vorpal Sword is overrated. I would like to live in the world where Vorpal Sword is good. It's a sweet card, sweet design, looks fun. It's not a 0 to get there, but man, I bet it is not going to actually be that good. I do not believe it is likely that they've really. It's possible, but I would bet against them sculpting a format in which this card is good. Fortunately, maybe, but this is just not the kind of card that they've made good lately. And I would bet that if it is good, it is because you have a combo with Death Touch, where your creature can actually, maybe has some pinging effect or something,
But it has to be combat damage.
Oh, then forget it. I'm off it. Maybe Allure.
Allure. So this is just too much worse than Shadow Spear to you?
No, wait, no. You're talking about the combat damage for the big ability.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about combo with Death Touch.
I thought you meant you were going to ping the opponent's face off.
No.
Okay.
No. All I want to do is make it into a mediocre Basilisk Collar.
It's not far off of a Basilisk Collar.
I'm not saying it's far off. I'm just saying it's off. It's a mediocre
It is
Basilisk.
off.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. I hope it's good.
I like it. I hope it's good. I bet it's not.
I'm going to be Mark Justice with the Elkin Bottle at Pro Tour 1 with this one.
Okay. I love it. But I'm a little bit more bullish on Power Word Kill, the other black spoiler.
Love Power Word Kill.
Uncommon. Destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. Dripping with flavor.
It is so. It's so cool. That's a 9th level spell, man.
It's pretty good.
I mean, a lot of humans, elves, Eldrazi, Those guys are not getting a saving throw off of this.
So how good is this card, man?
Excellent.
Obviously, it's got some Victim of Night comparison, but it's actually just much easier to cast, which I think is like a real big part of the equation.
I mean, I don't want Power Word Kill as my only defense if Tiamat is good. I'll tell you that.
No.
It obviously has a niche. I think like Victim of Night is a really good comparison. When that card was excellent in Standard, particularly in black-blue variants, they had maybe 6 2-casting cost black removal spells in their main deck, but they were always a mix because there were like 4 of anything. Because like all of them had some angle that was not good, so you'd have a mix on them. I think Power Word Kill, if it's going to be a main deck card, probably not a 4 of. Could be 4 of in 75 because this card is just straight up unconditional terror in a lot of matchups. Like if you play against mono red with this, it takes out dwarves, it takes out humans. They are just going to have their best creature be killed. It kills gods, interestingly, as long as they're not indestructible gods. So I think this card's just going to be excellent. Likely prediction.
Okay, so, yeah.
2 of main deck, 4 of 75 will not be uncommon.
Well, it will definitely be uncommon. But do you like this better than Heartless Act?
It's hard for me to extract it from the dripping with flavor part, because when you said that, it made me love this card twice as much, and I already liked it. Do I like it more than Heartless Act?
No, like as a card to play with, though.
No, I understand.
Because like obviously with Eliminate, they have different tactical uses, right? But talk to me about this card being not just worse than Heartless Act.
I mean, there's just situations where you get caught on the wrong side of a Heartless Act, like with thing that's already in play.
Like a thing that has counters, right?
It gained or lost counters, yeah. And
has a base power toughness, isn't just all counters.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think this card is... I think it's probably a little generally worse than Heartless Act, but not by a lot.
That's fair. Yeah, I bet this card is going to surprise people with regards to how many angels and demons and devils and dragons that you would want to kill and can't. But I think this is a sweet design.
I mean, I agree. Like, if the only card that matters in the game is a Baneslayer Angel, Power Word Kill is not going to help you out very much. So hopefully you don't want to be in that situation. But,
What about Portable Hole, the other removal spell? This is that white artifact that when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until Portable Hole leaves the battlefield.
I think this card is unbelievable. It's just so good.
Oh, yeah?
I love it, yeah.
Is this the white Fatal Push?
I think that underrates how good it is.
But it's slow. You think this is better than Fatal Push?
Much better than Fatal Push.
What? How can any card... wait, hold on. Just so I can get a comparison. Is this card better than Swords to Plowshares? Because it's not like Swords to Plowshares is much better than Fatal Push.
This card can exile a Survival of the Fittest.
Right. That's pretty relevant, but not that often.
I mean, like, I think that... Well, I'll just tell you the context of when I was imagining wanting to play this. Is not... Well, I don't know. Is it better than Fatal Push? I think
2 or less.
It takes out a Death Shadow, right? It's really good. A Fatal Push can kill a Death Shadow, and then they just bring it back with a Claim to Fame.
Yeah. And dude, Swords to Plowshares can kill a Death Shadow too. It can kill 2 of them.
But it's let me think. It's different than a Fatal. I guess that's not fair to.
Of course, it's different
because you're asking if it's better.
It's sorcery speed, not instant, and they can get it back if they have artifact kill. But and it can't hit things that cost 4, 3 or 4. It sacrifices all these things for the advantages of being able to hit non-creature permanents such as artifacts, enchantments, and planeswalkers. as well as the fact that it's white instead of black. And then finally, because artifact is kind of interesting, there's like useful things. So, like for instance, Trinket Mage should go get Portable Hole is that's a pretty good trinket.
I like that a lot. I also think like it's hard for me to decide if I think that it's better than Fatal Push because Fatal Push is black and this card is white. Like it's not just the card itself. Like the whole kit of the white cards is different than the whole kit of the black cards when you play those, right? Like if you have like Fatal Push as your splash color, right, you get cards like Duress. If you have Portable Hole as your splash color, you get cards like, I don't know, Core Firewalker, right? Like we're wildly jumping all over the place in terms of format. But like as a standard card, I think as a standard card, it's probably much worse than Fatal Push because people tend to play larger creatures in standard. But if you were thinking about like wider format applications, like if you're going to play this card in Modern, a lot of the time, all you want in your interaction in a Modern deck is to be able to destroy the opponent's one casting cost accelerator without giving them some other advantage.
Dude, if you Portable Hole their Aether Vial,
that is insane. People keep mana screwed hands because of that.
Yeah, isn't that your dream to Portable Hole an Aether Vial?
I'm happy to do that. I am happy to take out their Noble Hierarch, their Aether Vial. Nobody's going to take out any Survival of the Fittest because nobody would. But, like, if Survival of the Fittest were somehow legal in some format, Portable Hole would be happy to fill that role.
I guess. Lots of times, by the time they play the Survival, it's too late. Like, when they survival, once or twice, and then you Portable Hole it before you die. What do you think of Prosperous Innkeeper, the last preview that we have for the day? It is, interestingly, a Halfling citizen, 1 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you get a treasure token. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life.
I like it.
Where are you going to use this thing?
I think like it has. First of all, it's just green, right? Start there. Versus other cards like this have typically been white. I mean, we had a color shifted version a few years back,
or red, depending on if you're looking at the life gain ability versus the treasure ability.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good point, right? So I think this card, I just generally like it. I think that it will be played in one of two areas. One, it could be played in decks that want to have some sort of a Soul Warden, right? Like, so there have been all kinds of decks that want to have some sort of a Soul Warden. Everything from like white-based beatdown decks that gain power by having additional life gain, and combo decks, right? Like Allurin decks played Soul Wardens or Soul Warden variants over the course of time. This one is different. Like, there have been other 2 casting cost Soul Warden type cards, but typically they were paired with something like Protection from Red, which would make them more durable, or just be 1 casting cost. But, this is the card that we have that's potentially legal. And then second of all, you get the treasure, which I think is, I don't know. This card is like, I'm feeling some Soul Warden here, but I'm also feeling like some Elvish Visionary, right? Like, Elvish Visionary has been phenomenal every single time it's ever been legal in like every format it's been legal.
We don't need to check the tapes on that one, but I do think that the treasure is a very crucial part of the equation. Having an accelerator that it doesn't matter if they kill it, you still have the treasure. That's a big deal. Plus, there's treasure rewards, explicit treasure rewards in Strixhaven. And the previous, obviously the Goblin that made treasure had good types, but we don't know the Halfling isn't a good type. Yeah. Might be. But also, this is easier to cast. 1 and a green is just such a different equation than red for some decks,
But
and you do get the best of both worlds with the life gain and the treasure making, Because then this is like a card worth killing, but it also gave you that acceleration.
So Wily Goblin was just RR for a 1/1 make a treasure, right?
Yeah.
And that card saw play in multiple formats.
Lots of play in lots of formats, always because it is a goblin or a pirate.
Yes. So Prosperous Innkeeper has, at least to what we know, dramatically worse types, despite being both a halfling and a citizen. It's not a goblin.
Or a pirate.
Yeah, so that part is worse, but I think, like, I feel like this guy is going to... it has too much good stuff going on. It has Soul Warden to it. It has Wily Goblin to it.
Here's what I think. I think this card's going to be instrumental in a new Tier 1 black-green life gain aggro deck.
Does that deck have Vorpal Sword?
No.
Could we, like, play one Vorpal Sword in the 75?
Nope.
Well, yeah, but I'll split the difference with you and agree on the Prosperous Innkeeper being excellent in perhaps multiple decks.
Oh, yeah. It could be good in other decks, too, but I just think this card is going to prove to be a shockingly, like, good card in black-green life force aggro, you know, some kind of life gain aggro deck.
It has power and toughness, so it could carry the Vorpal Sword.
Dude. All right. See you next week, man.
Good night, Patrick.
In life didn't work so great. Tried to play dredge, so jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped in a vault with nothing but time. Parents and my friends were the key to find. Magic gave me purpose and drive. The game, the love, it kept me alive.